up, what we want to do is take the time to cover the structured part mode, what it's for, what it can do basically, and you know, what its limitations are, maybe you know, how you propose it. I think it's not something that you necessarily have to lead with. It's probably, you know, it's something that is kind of a, if they need it, it's great, it's there. But you know, you can feel that out and kind of determine what you think each customer might be different. The basic purpose of structured part mode is to give customers a way to do what the other guys are doing. You know, for years we've trumpeted, you don't need design intent, you know what the design intent's going to be, let's just go for it, and you can make easy changes, and the model is real flexible and easy to move around. Well, we finally admitted to ourselves that there are cases where you need design intent. Maybe there's a guy that's making a pump. His company only makes pumps. They make 15 different kinds of pumps, and they all vary just slightly. So he wants one model where he can, you know, parameterize it and put in the design intent because he does know how it's going to change. It's a very predictable family of parts, and he wants to build a model where he can, you know, change a few parameters and the model updates, and everything is in place there. So structured mode comes in. You can kind of think of it as SolidWorks mode or inventor mode. You know, the traditional CAD systems where there's a tight parent-child relationship. You can see on the screen here, the blue part is a structured part. The red part is an innovative part. And this is the modes. And how you determine what, you know, is being created, if you look down here on the icon right down here, there's a little pop-up menu. You got structured and you got innovative. So whatever that's selected on at the time that you create the part, whether it be drag and drop or through extrude or whatever, that's what mode the part's going to be in. Once the part's in that mode, it's stuck in that mode. You can't go back and forth. So that's something to keep in mind. But you can populate assemblies with a mixture of innovative parts and structured parts. So if you know ahead of time, okay, well, I got this base of this part, I know how it's going to change, I want it to be structured, but the rest of the assembly, maybe I want it innovative, then you can mix and match there. If you look, even if you mouse over a part, you can see a little gear icon. That means it's a structured part. If you mouse over an innovative part, it gives you a little block icon next to the cursor. You can see if we expand in the scene browser, this says the structured part, part 7 here. It keeps track of bodies, like if you have disjointed bodies. It has planes, and you can see the planes if I make this part active. I can right-click on the part, hit Set Active, and you can see there's you know, the planes around the origin. Then the features itself, and this rollback state. So this allows me to roll back to an early place in the model. That takes the blends out. We'll go over a little bit more of that later on. Then you got your innovative part, which all you guys are probably used to. You've got part 8 here, just a block and a blend. So same geometry, but different structure a little bit here. So one of the key things that it does is it enforces this parent-child relationship, where in innovative parts the feature history can be kind of dynamic. It'll allow for reordering automatically, and you don't have to worry too much about your part feature history. In structured mode, it's locked in. I mean, the block is always going to come before the blend, and any features, this is always a strict order that the features come in, and it enforces the parent-child relationships in a sense that, like, you know, for example, if you know, if I drop a hole onto a block, then that hole is always going to be a child of the block. So I'll show you kind of a quick example of that. I'm going to drop some holes on this parts here, and let's just throw some of these at it here. Now I'm going to just real quickly throw these on and copy them in place in the innovative part. Okay.
How are you doing that?
Oh, just with a right click and drag on the part, and then holding the shift key down to snap it in place.
Oh, son of a gun.
Okay, and then let me do the same over here, but this time instead of copying the parts around, I'm going to drag them each into place one at a time. And what that's doing is it's creating a constraint at those points that I drop it on, and the structured part will automatically constrain features to each other. drop on points like that. So I've got these holes on the center points of the corners, and then I put this hole, the center hole, on the center face of the part. So you kind of get an idea here where the part looks the same now, right? Both parts look the same, but if you go back and edit them in innovative mode, you know, it's nice because there's no assumptions, right? But if you wanted their assumptions to be, if you wanted those to stay maintained, the structure part is superior. So if I drag this, you see the holes in the corners follow the corners, and the hole in the center updates to be stay in the center, no matter how I change the shape of this. So, you know, that's the kind of thing where, you know, if a customer knows what the design intent is, then he can capture it quite a bit easier. Now, we could do some similar things in innovative mode with a lot of push-ups. We could put dimensions on here and, you know, lock these into place. But, you know, the structured mode just makes it a lot easier. So, you know, if you toggle over to structured mode, drop a block out, bam, you've started a structured part. You can go on your way. So that's really all there is to that. So fundamentally, that's what it brings to the table. I'm going to go through a more thorough example that's right out of the tutorial for this guy here. So if I open up, go down into the IronCAD tutorial folder and open up the stapler file. If anybody's done the stapler demo, you'll recognize, or the stapler tutorial, you'll recognize this. And this is an example of kind of mixing innovative parts with structured parts. You can see that the base and the pad here are both innovative parts. Really doesn't matter if, you know, mixing and matching the type of parts. So I'll drag and drop a block out here just to put it in place and drop it as a part. And you see the first thing I did is I forgot to set structured part. Here we go. Structured part mode, do it again, and I get the structured part that I wanted. So most of the things you're used to are still there. The drag and drop handles, you know, you can come in here and do similar manipulations. So I'll go ahead and snap that in place. I'm going to make a little cover for this stapler is the idea of this tutorial here. One concept that's different in structured mode is this concept of active part. So if I right-click on this part and say Set as Active, now anything I create in the scene will become part of this part. Even if I just drag and drop a block out here in space, that block becomes part of part 61 here. And you can see that because that's the active part. And that can help you if you're creating things, you know, that may need a disjointed body for the construction you're doing. I'll go ahead and delete that. Same thing with, like, you know, datum planes or surfaces. You're working in this part mode, if you will. So even though the assembly's there, you're in context just working on this one part.
Kevin, you right-clicked and I saw the make active part. It's defaulted as active part mode when you're in structured, right?
Well, no. When you're in structured, you have to set it as active if you want it to be the active part. Okay. So right now, if I hit deselect all, nothing is active. And if I drop a new part out, now that's a new structured part, but it's not active. So if I drag a part over here, it's going to create another new part, not a block of this. So you do have to set it active. Okay. So that, there's no automatic activation. So if I right-click the part again, Set as Active has to be selected. Yeah, that's a good question because that's important to differentiate. Some other things you can do. You can still use the tri-ball on the part. That's still available. So for instance, I'll use that to center.
Does operations work better in one mode or the other?
No. There's really no. There's no. The functions still work basically the same. It's just put it in the context of this constraint-based parent-child paradigm. So there's really no difference as far as extrude still works like extrude, sweep works like sweep. You're just going to be locking things together more tightly in structured mode. So there's no advantage geometry-wise of doing one or the other. Okay, so I'm going to put in a sketch here and go by a plane and a face, and then I'll set the origin down here on the corner. And I'm just going to set up basically, if I get that corner, hello, a lot of geometry converging here. Okay, going to set up a sketch for a surface here and show you how the surface is even part of the, will even be part of the solid, or a feature of the solid. So come in here and slap a spline on here. Let's see if I'm doing this right here. Going off a little bit of a cheat sheet here. All right. I'm going to put some dimensions in here. One cool thing with structured part that you can do that you can't do in innovative part is dimension a sketch to a model. So there's no lines up here, no geometry. There's just the 3D part, but I can still snap a dimension to it, which is something you can't do in the innovative. So that's kind of a.
That can be very handy.
Yeah. There's some things about this that really are unique. Yeah. So let me give a few values here. Oop. Let's undo that. I guess I dimensioned to the wrong point. There we go. Huh.
Yeah, too many points in there.
Yeah, oh, that's what it is. I've got an extra point here. Good catch. Let's try that again. That was a slight slip of the mouse there. Had an extra point. The purpose of these you'll see later when we update the model. Let's see if that'll give it to me. There we go. Okay. That should cut what we want. We're going to use this to trim the solid. So you can see even that 2D profile became a feature of part 61. So, you know, even the sketches will do that. So we'll create a surface here and hit OK on that, and you'll see again the surface is part of the model. And this all just assists in keeping everything locked together. I'll come in and do a Boolean on that. Do a subtraction.
Can we not trim to a curve?
Right. No, you can't trim a solid to a curve. You had to make a surface first for that. Yeah. Okay. So we get this in here, and then we'll go ahead and throw a few blends on here just to show. So we're going to show a couple examples of the history reordering. Put that on there. And then we'll put a couple other things here. This is all kind of setting up for some edits at the end. I'll drop a cylinder on here. And I'm going to go back to its feature options here. And this is kind of a cool one. You can go up to faces, say I want to extrude it up to that face, and it'll reverse it and pop it in there. That actually might be available in the innovative as well. That's interesting. Try that again. Oh, I hit the wrong option. I want up to surface. That surface. Okay, there we go. Okay, so again, some of the same things, the drag and drop for a hole here. I'll just pop that through. All right. So the next thing we'll do is put a couple more blends on here. The tutorial goes a little bit into some extra things that I don't think are probably really necessary for the example, but we'll go ahead and follow it. All right. Now, one thing that this will show how rigid the history tree is. I'm going to put in a draft mode here, or a draft faces thing here, and I'm going to pick this bottom face for the draft plane, and just draft these outside surfaces. And you'll see this front looks a little kind of wacky here. It left that hanging out there because the blend came before the draft. So if I take this blend now and just drag it down below the draft, it'll put it in place. So that just kind of shows you that I would consider that somewhat of the limitation of, the innovative mode. It would just automatically reorder that kind of stuff typically. So to keep the model making sense. Whereas in structured mode, it's really, you got to really be specific, which plays up to its strength, of being able to keep this locked in place in a predictive way. But again, it's something that you have to do a little more work up front, I think. Okay, we're going to shell this guy out here. And thickness of 2, and we'll open up these faces here. Just kind of wrap around. Okay. And let's see, we're going to throw on a small blend here around the outside and the front here. And I'm going to hide this. You can still suppress features here like this sketch. We can hide that out of the way. Give this a little bit of color here. Okay. So the next thing we can do is show you a feature-based move face command. Basically, you know how we've talked in the past about the direct face modeling and how that basically breaks down the part structure at that point, at that local area, and allows you to move the face around independent of history. But with structured part mode, what you have is a move face command that actually adds something to the history as it's moving the local operation. So I select the face, turn on the triball. Maybe I'll pull this out a little bit, and you can see the motion here. Maybe I'll rotate this up a little. Maybe rotate about both axes just to give it a bit of a twist here. Maybe we'll twist it this way. There we go. Hit OK, and you can see it made the rotation of the face, but it created a new feature down here. Rather than compressing these local operation, or the other features in the local operation, it just creates a new feature. So you can actually roll back from that and see the difference. Play back to the end. So that kind of gives you again, more of a SolidWorks type methodology. Rather than just moving the face and compressing down the shapes, it's actually creating another feature, which is kind of a unique advantage. The other downside of this, if you get a lot of these, it can be kind of unwieldy to go back and edit them later. So if you're doing a lot of move face command, because they're not as intuitive of how that was created maybe later on, especially if somebody else was using your model. So the other thing that's cool about this is those dimensions we placed on that sketch for the curvature up here. Those will stay active as I move the part around. You can see it'll update the curvature. I went a little too far there. I went beyond. If I bring this part up, you can see it's just adjusting the curvature a little bit there. So the concept here is that everything is locked in place, and again, you'd ask the customer, if they have parts where they know how they're going to change, and it's a family of parts type of thing. That's where you get involved with this. One last thing to show on it is more about this rollback state. I'm going to roll this back to right before the Boolean, and you see it takes off all the features I added after that. It just suppresses those and puts me back into a state where whatever I create now will come inserted into the history right at that point. So if I come back and say, well, really I wanted to put a hole through this right here, and I want it to show up in that place in history, you can see there it is now, the H cylinder. That's a new H cylinder right there after the Boolean. I can come back and roll back to end and play everything, and you see the hole is there. One thing I can do is I can edit the shell feature and say I want that to shell that hole as well. And you can see it goes ahead and shells around that hole. So that basically concludes the overview of the structured part capability. Again,